What's going on, my soul family? Welcome back to another episode of the Awake with Jake show. On today's episode, I'm going to be dropping in and giving you a live energy update of what I feel is happening right now within the collective consciousness. All throughout this week, I've been getting so many downloads that I woke up this morning and I was overwhelmed with the amount of messages that I've been receiving about what's happening. So throughout this episode, I'm going to basically be decoding what's really going on in the physical world right now. And you may be experiencing a lot of these things too. So I'm going to kind of help you to navigate these things. Now, before I get into this episode, I just have a small favor to ask you. Please, if you're new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss any future content as it rolls out. And also, if you haven't done so already, if you could be so kind to take a moment of your time, leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, because when you do this, you help me reach more souls with my messages of hope, wisdom, and love. So let's get right into this energy update. You may be feeling it right now. I'm sure you're feeling it. If you are tuned into spirituality at all, then you probably feel the heaviness of what is happening in our physical world right now. Because remember, everything that's physical was once non-physical, okay? So all of the spiritual stuff that's been happening for a very long time is now manifesting physically. And right now, the veil is so thin, meaning the veils that have been placed in front of us that block us from seeing our truth, which is really just a projection of the ego. The ego constructs are being destroyed right now. So we're able to see more clearly in this time right now. The collective third eye is starting to open up. And you're noticing in the physical world right now that people are starting to unify, regardless of your indifferences, regardless of any of your indifferences, whether politics or whatever you believe or don't believe. This has nothing to do with that, because our souls are literally coming together, going beyond the ego and unifying as one collective consciousness. And as this happens, we start to destroy the veils that have kept us asleep, that have kept us unconscious, that have kept us out of alignment. You know, for a very long time in my life, I operated from a place that was not in alignment. I didn't even know what alignment meant. And maybe you're at that point right now. And a really quick and easy example of what alignment is and what alignment isn't is we could use the analogy of a car. And if you've ever driven a car before and you needed an alignment with your car and the wheels were out of alignment, your car will pull to the left or it'll pull to the right, and it will not drive smoothly. There's no fluidity when you're driving. The steering wheel feels very tight. That is not being in alignment. There's a lot of resistance there. The same thing happens to us spiritually and energetically when we're not in alignment. We feel a lot of resistance. We feel like we're getting pulled left or right, which once again is our ego trying to pull us back into the grooves, back into the patterns, back into what's comfortable, right? But the soul takes the path of moving into alignment, moving through the shadows, because getting into alignment is not easy, okay? Choosing to start getting into alignment means you have to work through the veils of your ego that are keeping you in unconscious patterns, that are keeping you stuck in suffering. So as you allow yourself to go deeper within and connect into your soul, you come into this place of alignment. Because when your car has alignment, you feel flow. You feel natural flow. It feels like ease. It feels good, and which is exactly what it is supposed to feel like. Not saying you're always going to feel like that, because there's going to be deep moments of surrender. There's going to be deep moments of pain and suffering. That's what the human experience is all about. You chose to take on a human form. You chose to take on this incarnation as a human. You chose to come here back to Earth School to awaken. And within that awakening process, there is going to be deep lessons that you have to, or you get to, awaken to from the illusion of the matrix. That the 3D matrix, especially right now, is crumbling. We're literally watching it crumble. The veils of those constructs, all of this stuff is being collapsed. right before our eyes and all within us. Because remember, it's all a manifestation of everything at once. Because everything in this universe is interconnected through the same heartbeat. Imagine it like a giant spider web. Even if the spider is all the way on one end, if a fly hits its web on the other end, it can feel the vibrations throughout the entire web all the way to it. And we are the same way right now, especially as you continue to ascend. You start to really tune into the collective heartbeat and you feel this divinity flowing through you because you realize that there is no separation from you or another person. And what you do to others, you're really only doing to yourself. Okay? So as you work through your feelings of discomfort, as you work through your feelings of fear, as you work through your feelings of uncertainty, which is really all the ego attachments to needing to feel safe, to needing to feel secure, to needing to feel all of these things, which of course you want to feel those things in this human experience. But as you awaken, those things will come naturally with the product, okay? It's like putting a really good service out to the world. At first, you might not make money doing it. But if you don't do it for the money purposes and you just do it with purity and love, eventually money will start coming back to you. The same way works as you continue to go through the veils of your ego and the shadow aspects of yourself. Because right now, collectively, we are being invited very lovingly and graciously by the universe to look deeper at our shadow elements. What wounds are you still holding on to in this moment? What pain are you withholding? What trauma are you withholding in your body that needs to be released, that needs to be let go of? And I want to share a story with you about a friend of mine who I'm not going to share their name, but I had this conversation with them the other day about energy healing and energy work because they've been going through some really deep medical problems. And I'm not giving you medical advice here, but I'm going to give you a spiritual and energetic perspective of what's happening with this person. Basically, they're having hip problems and a lot of stuff going on in the hips. And the hips are the root chakra. And I said to them, I said, listen, are you withholding any type of pain in your hips from feeling unsafe in your childhood? I know you had a really unsafe childhood and you felt very threatened growing up and very uncertain. And they said, yes, absolutely, I am. So because of that, I feel energetically, once again, this is not medical advice, energetically, that trauma that they experienced, the childhood abuse, the not feeling safe, all of that stuff got lodged within that energy center and is now manifesting as physical pain. The emotional components behind it got stored energetically and imprinted in the body, in the hips, and is now manifesting as a physical symptom. And I've had this happen to me many times in my life. You know, for example, my right shoulder was really bothering me. And I could not figure it out for the longest time. So my right side is the masculine side of my body. The left side is the feminine side of my body. It's the same for all human beings. My right shoulder was really bothering me. But at that point in my life, I was carrying a lot of stress and anger in my back towards my father, which the right side, the masculine side, and the shoulders carrying the burdens of the world. I was carrying all of this weight on my shoulder because the anger and the resentment that I had towards my father, which, by the way, I've now healed the relationship with my father and we have an amazing relationship. And so many people are like, how did you go from him almost killing you multiple times to truly loving each other and being good friends? I mean, we talk all the time now. I chose to. I chose to forgive him. And it wasn't some like, oh, I forgive you, Dad. I'll write you a little letter and it's all over. No. I'm talking years of deep integrative shadow work of crying and purging and releasing my anger and resentment. And really what I was releasing was the stored trauma in my central nervous system that I was just bringing up, letting go, bringing up, giving it up to God, bringing it up, giving it up to source energy, whatever you want to call it. And that was my process. And sometimes I still have to go through that process. Sometimes I have to get brought back into that initiation phase to go to the next level of consciousness. So back to the story that I was sharing about my friend. Then I dropped into a meditation, meditating on his energy. And all of a sudden I heard him say my name. But it wasn't him speaking. It was his higher self energy that was connecting to me and speaking to me. And it felt like there was a lot of anger and resentment at what this person was doing here on earth because they weren't living in alignment with their truth. And the reason why they're not living in alignment with their truth is because they're operating from old programming, old trauma, old ego constructs to stay comfortable, to stay safe, and to not really go deeper into this human experience. So when you're not willing to go deeper in this human experience, when you know there's more for you, then the soul starts to awaken and the ego tries to put it back to sleep. So you literally have this inner conflict of ego versus soul. And it's not that the ego is bad or the soul is good. It's none of that. It's the ego is a part of this body. Okay. It's when the body dies, the ego dies kind of thing. So when the ego wants to feel safe and secure and comfortable, but the soul is here to awaken. The soul is here to transcend. The soul is here to alchemize pain of the human form. It is inevitable that they start to clash, okay? So basically the higher self was communicating to me, their higher self was communicating to me and saying that there's a lot of anger and resentment here. They're not living in alignment with their truth because they're doing what's comfortable, they're doing what's easy, but they're also, in parallel to that, they're operating from a place of old trauma that's been lodged deeply within their body that's causing them to almost live in this hell loop. And if you don't know what a hell loop is, basically a hell loop is, imagine your worst case scenario right now, your worst case scenario. And at the end of that scenario, you die, right? And then the exact same thing happens again. Say you walk into a room, someone kills you. And then basically you open the door, you walk in the same room, same person kills you. You literally just keep creating that. And that's what I call a hell loop. We create that because we're not awakening. Because when you awaken, you step away from that hell loop, from that paradigm that's keeping you in a state of suffering. It's keeping you in a state of suffering. And I believe there's a big difference between pain and suffering. Because pain is inevitable. When you're in this human form, you're going to experience pain. It actually is a great catalyst to help us awaken. But suffering, continuing to suffer, is actually the ego constructs to not grow, to stay the same. So we're at one level, we're choosing just to suffer when we know that we're not living in alignment with our truth. Now, getting out of this style, getting out of this phase, if you will, is very difficult. And I lived in it for very long. I was driven by my ego. I was driven by the need for power, to make a bunch of money, to be successful, and really be a somebody in this life. You know, because when we're born, we're given an identity. Social security number. We're plugged into this matrix to really be a somebody. Got to have status in this life. So everybody right now is walking around with their somebodyness, thinking they're really somebody, really attached to that identity. Now here's the thing. When your identity is compromised, you suffer. When your identity is compromised, you suffer because your ego starts thinking, well, I'm less than. I'm not validated. I'm not loved anymore. But if you have all of that stuff within yourself and you're truly integrated with your soul energy, you don't need the external validation. You're not so attached to your somebodyness. You're not so attached to who you think you are in this life and identified with your social status and your followers and all that stuff that really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. So as you continue to go through this integration process, which I know you're going through right now, I can feel the vibration of the energy behind it. I want you to know that it's all going to work out perfectly. It's all going to work out perfectly. Trust that. Believe that. Don't allow your shame or your guilt or your fear to make you think otherwise. I promise you that if you keep going into this, you keep going inward, into it, and listening to your truth, eventually you will come into a place of alignment. But remember, before the caterpillar can fly, it has to let go of the cocoon. And when it starts to crawl out of that cocoon and it grows its wings, there's a stage in that caterpillar's life where it may think, I don't know if I can fly. I don't know if I can fly. But then it remembers and the light bulb goes off and it remembers, I'm a caterpillar coming into a butterfly. And butterflies are born to fly. Butterflies are born to fly. You were born with wings. You were born with angel wings, energetic angel wings that were clipped from you at birth. And they've been taken away from you. And I say angel wings very loosely in the sense because I believe that a child is pureness, is wholeness, is perfection. And I think we all are perfect, but then our egos tell us that we're not. So when we are born, literally our purity and our innocence and the playfulness is cut and stripped away from us. And we could call that our angel wings. So in order to reclaim our angel wings, we have to remember who we really are. Who we really are is a divine soul, is an extension of source or God energy. And as we remember this and we awaken from the illusion, we start to transcend a lot of the unconscious behaviors that we are locked into, the toxic relationships that we've gone through and continue to go through or continue to stay in, doing that work that doesn't really serve our deep soul calling. We start to break free from that because we're walking a path of alignment and we're taking our car, we're bringing it to the mechanic shop right now, and we're saying, listen, I need an alignment right now. I need to get my car back into alignment. I need to move back into alignment with my truth, with what I really know to be true in this life. And you may not know right now. I didn't know for a very long time. I didn't have inner truth. But the more that I went inward, the more I listened to the universe, to the whispers of the universe, I started to hear the truth. I started to remember the truth. So it takes time. It takes patience. It takes dedication. It takes commitment. It takes consistency. But I promise you, the more you go inward, the more free you will become. The more you go inward, the more free you will become from your ego, unconscious ways to keep you stuck in this lower vibratory state. And the more you raise your vibrational energy, you literally heal your energetic field, the holes in your energetic field that have been punched in there from the trauma that keep you in this low vibrational state that attracts to you similar vibrational energy. Those people just start falling out of your life. So right now, if you're really going through the thick of it and you feel lonely, that may be because you're experiencing a cleansing in your life right now. People, things, experiences will start falling out of your life to allow you to continue to moving into deeper alignment. And it's really a beautiful thing. So when you notice yourself forcing something, and you're like, oh man, here we go. When you notice yourself forcing something, especially something that means a lot to you, that you have a lot of emotional attachment to, really pay attention to that. Why are you forcing it? Why are you forcing that relationship? Why are you forcing that new purchase of a house or, a car, whatever you're buying? Why are you forcing that instead of allowing the process to be exactly what it needs to be and not judging it? That's the real key here, to let the process unfold exactly as it's meant to be without judging the process or getting your ego little dirty paws in there and trying to control the process. We love to do that. We love to stick our dirty little paws in there with our ego, our little dirty ego paws, we'll call them, and we try to control everything. Allow yourself to surrender within. And you'll notice that your outer world starts to shift. Because as you change your inner world, the outer world starts to change. This human experience becomes so much more beautiful when you allow yourself to really walk in that place of truth by walking through your shadows because you've been through it. This is not just a place of mind stuff. I don't know these concepts just because I live in my mind. I have truly gone through the shadows and embodied this work. I was the fat kid with the stutter. I was angry. I was confrontational, suicidally depressed. So how do you move from that to being able to speak in front of a camera without the stutter anymore, right? Sometimes I still stuttered, but I allowed myself to continue to step in my path, and I invite you to do the same thing. Thank you so much for listening to this episode today. If it brought you value, please do me a favor right now so you don't forget, screenshot it Share it to your Instagram story and tag me @_Jake Woodard. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this message. I love you and I appreciate you. And as always, stay open, stay loving, and stay connected to that beautiful source within you.